So the first vision that you guys would get is one that as soon as the queen takes down her veil is like fired straight into you. Like it is been on your heels for a long while. And basically it just barely missed you. Um and in the vision you from the character's perspective there is this like fog of stuff going around, and you see in front of you this incredible insect queen, this massive Formian hive queen, and she's shown in all of her glory. Her skin, or sorry, her like chitin is iridescent green, and there is a golden halo around her. And your perspective says that calls out to the queen, saying, you're beautiful. I need your attention. I need you to be in my life. And then the queen turns and says, you're not worthy to speak of me. I don't deal with slaves. And then the perspective character says, I'm not a slave. How dare you? I'm a queen in my own right. I am one of the three. I am one of the queens. You cannot say to me what you are saying. I am the queen that is. And then the Formian queen turns and pushes away the perspective character, and then the perspective character is forced back into their own body as they see things happening through their eyes, of seeing the eyes of all of the Formians underneath them, as the Formian queen, who's the perspective character, sees atrocities being committed both to and by the Formian people under her hive, and then sees these vampires that have taken control, that are holding her children hostage and using them as cannon fodder, and as walking blood banks, as some of them have been altered to better form and better serve as a walking snack for these creatures. And then she issues a command. All at once, thousands of Formians on several different planes turn on their masters, and the carnage is indescribable as the command of the queen returns for a moment, and then the light goes away, the darkness swallows back up, and the head of the Formian queen is pulled around towards a dark portal, out of which steps the Night King, who draws the attention in and seals back away behind this fog bank of control and confusion, the mind of the queen, who sees just in that last moment that idealized image, that perfect image of the Formian queen in her mind, the thing that she saw first and that she knows is what she should be. Because in her mind, she is the queen that is. But she knows too that she is just an echo, a representative, something that is supposed to be connected to and following after in the image of the queen that is. And maybe her vision was right. Maybe she is just a slave. And then you wake. So that is Vision 20.
So you're saying the Night King killed that character?
Not killed.
Like
she can feel her mind, her will eroding and no longer being hers.
Got it.
Did it feel like she was here at that time?
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I guess they kind of broke their mirror, but yeah, no. Just how did it feel like in relation to being a mirror, I guess?
You don't know exactly what it's like to be one of the mirror, but the idea that you could, if the mirror had the ability to just open their eyes and see all at once, so the idea of like when she looks through the eyes of her of the other Formians, like it's one of those like 1,000-faceted eyes, and each eye is seeing through a different Formian, and then she sends out a psychic command and commands them all at once: rebel, resist, destroy, and sees bloodshed on all of the different pictures of seeing thousands and thousands of the Formians turn on their masters. So it might be what it's like to be a mirror, but there is a measure of control that doesn't seem like what the at least the explanation of the mirror that you've been given.
Okay.
Is the queen that we saw the same one that we saw in I'm gonna get all the names wrong. The Myrmidons, like when we went into his mind and like we're exploring there, is that one of the queens that we saw?
You don't think so. You think that there's a level of sort of disconnected familiarity. You think that the queen in the Myrmidon's mind was the perspective character. The queen that your characters would be aware now that you see Lachesis like in her full form. The viewpoint character didn't understand, but believed on some instinctual level that this was the true queen that is. And you can see that you're aware enough after meeting Mother to know that that wasn't just a dream, that wasn't an idealized thing. The viewpoint character saw Mother. It saw Mother for a moment and woke up. So, like, while in the vision, Mother Summer, the queen that is, looked like a Formian queen, you know that it was actually her. It was Lachesis. She appeared to the viewpoint character not as this, but as the Formian queen.
I see. But then she was mean to them.
Well, not mean, just saying they were a slave. So, a slave to what?
And it was this idea of the viewpoint character addressed Mother as a peer, and then Mother turned to her and said, "We are not peers. I don't even want to hear the words of a slave. I won't even respond to you." And then that
She is so disrespectful.
That outrage of like, how dare you disrespect me? That outrage caused the perspective character to wake up for a second and then see through all of her eyes what was happening.
I see. We're with Lachesis right now though, right?
Yep. You will be with Lachesis once the visions are over.
Okay. Do we have a sense of when this happened?
The rod is not cold.
Okay, so it hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
But the Night King was like the Night King that we know with the one
Correct.
eye. Okay. And did it look like this was happening on like Tantarus or somewhere we recognize?
When she woke up for a second and you got to see just eyes everywhere, it was very difficult and disorienting to tell where all the Formians were.
Mhm.
When her attention was pulled away from the hive and drawn into the Night King, the place looked monochromatic. So it looked like it was probably in the Shadowfell.
Okay.
Like
So
normally, go ahead.
So the perspective character wakes up, orders the colony to attack the vampires, and then the Night King intervenes and redominates the perspective character.
Yep.
Okay.
You were saying, JP?
Yeah, I was just thinking like normally like there's a bit of a sense of, well, maybe I'm wrong on that too, but there's normally a bit of a sense as to like what the visions are meant to tell us, kind of. I don't know. It feels like this one's too far beyond us at this point. Like, what should we be doing? Should we be, asking, the Queen of Summer to intervene? Should we be like going there and stopping this? Like, I'm half the time I don't know what to do with these visions, right?
Half the time. You're doing better than
Yeah,
me.
it's pretty good odds.
Oh, half the time I get it wrong too. So we're down to like, low odds here.
I mean, I think there are visions that we are not able to address, and that's not infrequent. Um, but I would probably talk to Lachesis about this one once we come out of it.
So and this is a thing for the players, right? That in character, you guys would get them all at once, and then be able to go back and converse and talk to them. If you think it would be better for the flow of us being people that are playing a game, to do it instead a different way, where we can have you talk to her now, I'm also fine with that. It's up to you guys.
In world, we get them all at once.
In world, you get them all at once, yeah.
And I think it makes sense to also get them all at once.
Okay.
That's
Any
my
questions about the Formian Vision 20 before you continue?
No.
I guess I just don't understand why the perspective character would think that they are the queen that is.
Because that's like their structure as Formians to be they use the same language for their queens.
So this one is being tricked into thinking that it's the queen that is?
No, I think it is the queen that is, but I think Lachesis is saying you're not actually the queen that is because she's being dominated by the Turi and has been for centuries. But because remember when we were in the Formian's mind, like we saw or maybe we even saw it in like a history revealed or something. We saw like the queen being subjugated by the Night King. Like she was made to watch all the Formians get murdered and she like tried to resist and then they like converted her, dominated her or whatever.
That is true. And I would say there is these sort of like there is the meta level of things can be multiple things at once. But then there's also the level of you've seen a bunch of societies structure themselves around other things. And so it's not necessarily that she believes she's the real Queen of Summer. She doesn't believe that she's actually Mother. But her position is as representative. Her position is similar to that in the way that it's structured, and that's how the society works. Kind of like when you guys initially talk to the vampires, they use a bunch of Fae language with stuff, and it's not because they're actually Fae, it's because they've modeled parts of their culture around Fae. Which also you know a little bit more about why now.
I really didn't pick up on that. Like that's why they call themselves having courts and stuff. That's a Fae thing. That makes sense.
Any other questions before we get to the coupled visions?
Bring on the song.
So the next two, we're going to be Lady On. So go move on to Vision 21. So the perspective shifts in, and there is this weird familiarity where you're getting a vision of someone that you've met before, and also someone that has basically warged into one of many's brain before. So the connection is so much more visceral, so much stronger, that it's like sort of the first visions where it was difficult to say that you were someone that was in a vision watching something happening rather than being that person. And when you experience things from Lady Ann's perspective, it feels like you're actually there rather than that you're kind of in the back seat of someone's head. And when you come to, you can feel her killing parts of her own brain as she's trapped in a room with her arms tied around her body, tied around and to the side of her body. And you see these layers upon layers of white cloth forming a halo around her body, that defensive clothing that you've always seen her wear, where it's like just basically one big strip of cloth of white cloth with gold writing on it that she's wrapped around her body. And she has that around her, and you can see her laying off to one side, and you can feel her going through the process of disconnecting parts of her brain, where she's removing pieces of herself. She's killing parts of her mind and her magic and her identity to slip through the cracks in her mind. And you see stalking back and forth in front of her is the Night King. It is the Night King that you know, the Lord of the Turi, and not the original Night King. But he's stalking back and forth in front of her. He looks like he's been injured, but is still basically okay. And there is this sense of he's gloating. He believes that he's won. And in Lady Ann's head, she thinks that no, it's not over yet. That he's gloating and talking about how you've spent so many thousands of years. Just to lose now is pathetic. It's worthless. It's beneath you, beneath him, beneath the whole court. Like this should have been harder. This should have been worse. And as you're kind of laying on the ground, you see him kind of walking forward and toying with a blade in his hand. And there is this thing in the back of your mind thinking that he thinks he's got you dead to rights. He thinks that there's no way to slip out of a true name weapon. But you haven't been idle for thousands of years. You haven't been resting on your laurels. You know how these things work. They work by tying your identity. They work by tying the essence of everything you are into yourself so innately that it should be impossible to remove. And you can feel that knowledge slowly being locked away, being separated, severed off from you in a piece of your body. You'll know you'll be able to reconnect once you pull yourself back together. But the only way to slip out of the binding that he has you in, using your name, and the only way to make that dagger not lethal, is to make sure that what's written on the floor, what's written on that blade, that's to someone that isn't important to you, that doesn't connect to you. You can leave all the parts of your mind that are on instinct, that are all the feral pieces of yourself, all the pieces that got empowered by becoming a vampire, all the things that the Night King thinks that you do not have anymore because you've let yourself be too intelligent for your own good. Those will be the things that once you can slip free from this, you can let them fly, and then you'll regenerate. You'll remember who you are in time. What's important is that you disconnect yourself from logical thought. You disconnect yourself from the essence of who Lady Ann is, and you instead become a deadly, unkillable, 10 millennia old vampire murder machine stuck in a room with her worst enemy. And you see him going back and forth, gloating and talking, and then something changes. You have this one fleeting thought that something feels wrong. There's a flutter in your stomach, something that you haven't felt since you were alive so many years ago. Doubt and worry, but it takes you a minute to notice what it is. Behind the Night King, the room is darkening. The shadows are growing, lengthening. You know what's coming. And then you see the trap you're really in. It doesn't have anything to do with what's written upon the floor. It doesn't have anything to do with the weapon in his hand. It doesn't have anything to do with the trap he laid that led you here. It has everything to do with those lengthening shadows and the fact that it's not been enough time. He's not learned enough yet. And you can feel yourself trying to put your pieces back together, trying to reconnect with the parts of your mind. You need your logic, you need your reason, you need to understand what this is so you don't feel what comes next. The wrong parts of your mind are being pushed to be in power now. The logical self that you normally are, it's a distant memory. It's someone you used to be before you tried to cut your way out of this trap. The parts that would allow you to not go crazy when you see what happens next, those are the parts that have been gnawed off by you trying to escape this trap. The shadows darken and you see this perfect strike. A blade with 1,000 years of enchantment held by someone with 1,000 years of martial training. A strike that would be perfect at destroying anything that wasn't the Night King. A strike that shows that 1,000 years of martial prowess doesn't beat 10,000 years of paranoia. You see the Baron materialize, his death blow pushed aside easily by the King of the Night, who knew this was coming. He slides out of the way, and then that hand flicks up. Tendrils of black energy and tentacles pulled from beyond reality wrap the Baron tight. And you know what's coming next. You know that this will hurt. Not physically, but it'll hurt. And it'll be the death of you. It'll trigger the wards. It'll cause the things that you've been using for so many years to allow you to deal with lesser minds, with weaker mortals. Those defenses you've placed on yourself, those barriers you've put between yourself and the world are about to tighten around your neck like a noose. The Baron is weak. The Baron is helpless. And you see the Night King Tisk. He flips over the blade in his hand, and on the blade is not your name, but his. He turns and says, "It was not worth it. Not worth the effort to make this blade. You are just a failed experiment of a bored immortal." And then the blade flies home. A knife with the name of the Baron carved upon it with all of the power of the true name weapons of old. And the Baron doesn't scream, just slumps. He dies in one moment, in one strike that should not harm him. And the parts of your mind that you've been sealing away for so long, the pieces of yourself that you've been holding so close, break. Power floods out of you, and your bonds do what they're supposed to do. Those loops of cloth all gathered or haloing around yourself turn towards you, the bindings clicking in harder and harder, wrapping tighter and tighter, protecting those around you from your emotions, sapping your power, sapping your strength, draining you as you try to claw back into your logical mind and fail. You see the world darkening away as they grow tighter and tighter, starting to feed upon your panic, your pain, your loss, seeing your son die before you. As the world starts to darken and you fall to one side, you see that bitch Margot saunter from the shadows. With a smile on her face, looking down at you, she opens a box, just like the one he showed you earlier. But you know that the knife in this box, it won't have your son's name on it. It'll have yours. And then you awake.
Why's Margot gotta do us like that, yo?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused.
You don't think it's Therese' name on that knife?
I mean, we can hope. But
Oh, like she betrays the Night King in that case?
Mm-hmm.
We can hope.
I
But
think
if
that
she
only
betrays the
matters
Night King, does it actually work?
only if we get the souls of Delseth back.
Yeah.
Now that's a thread.
It's a heck of a thread.
Do
Wait,
we know
that would be interesting. Like, I feel like I trust Margot. Like, that's interesting. Like, if we, instead of our next thing being fucking off and talking to a creepy old dude, like going into space for more.
Did we do like rituals and stuff to ensure that Margot wasn't lying when she said it would have the Turi King's name?
I don't think so.
She showed you the blade.
Okay.
So
And we
you've
did,
seen the
yeah.
blade, and it did have the Turi King's name on it.
Okay.
How easy would that be to falsify?
And the first blade in the vision was not the same blade, right?
Yeah, it was a different blade. And from your perspective, it looked like both of them were different, but they looked the same to each other, right? So both of the knives that he had, the one that he was holding while he was gloating, and the one that was in the box that Margot offered, both of those blades looked different from the one that you saw when Margot showed you the knife that she had. But the two blades that you saw in the vision look identical to each other.
So maybe she was
Oh,
going to kill
so
Anna, then she'll kill her later, or kill him later.
no, it's maybe like the complete blade looks different.
Oh, maybe.
Is there something like off about? I mean, we don't know enough about those blades, right? We would have to ask. Margaret or Lady On would be a good person to ask. And funnily enough, like us asking her wouldn't conflict with the vision at all. Like if we
So
said,
something I thought of was if On Song is making a cool adversary killing plague, we know somebody that could give her immortality.
Mm-hmm.
doesn't On Song already have immortality?
Or she wants to be a god. She wants nature, right?
Yes. And when we first met that character, we thought it was an information hazard. But
Mhm.
now I think we assume that it's not a bad thing to be friends with On. Again, assuming.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just going to depend on which way the wind is blowing.
That's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
I've always been Team On. I love her.
That's because you're a girl boss.
Yeah, she's a girl boss.
Yeah, but you pledge fealty to just about anyone that you meet that can take something out of your brain.
Or put something in.
No, not always. Sometimes people pledge fealty to me, like Al Shaib. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sure he's doing
Yeah.
that for a really good reason. That's
About
lit.
that fealty.
So what questions, if any, do you guys have about Vision 21, the On being captured?
Did it seem like she expected to be in this position? If that makes sense.
Maybe not specifically, but like she had a contingency plan for this, right? Like
She had a
Mhm.
contingency plan for her being attacked with a true name knife.
yes.
Mhm.
She didn't have a contingency plan for the Baron being killed with a true name knife.
Well, specifically, she didn't have a contingency plan for while she was using the thing that she needed to do to not get killed by the true name weapon for it, because it like she kills parts of her logical mind. She kills sort of the higher brain function in order to escape, in order to slip through the crack, in order to be able to avoid the weapon. And she didn't think during that time where she's going to be super emotional that she would get slammed with something with the death of her son. So that was the switch, and that was the Night King's plan.
Was it the Bloody Baron or a different Baron?
It's the Baron that is Baron Ferno. It's the one you know.
Okay.
So here's a question to the group, and my personal answer is yes, because he's a dick. if we determine that the knife in the box, or I guess decide that the knife in the box is uh, the one we want it to be, are we willing to sacrifice the Baron's life? I say yes. And we have to
Oh,
tell.
like if
I think we would have
Margot,
to. To me, it's like, oh, we tell On what's gonna happen. And it's like you have to let your son die, and you can just kill that bitch.
you're saying like this is the first part of the Night King getting killed by Margot.
I'm saying this is it.
Yeah. So you're saying like this has to happen to make that. So I have
Well,
a question.
I don't think it has to happen, but it's a possible. Like, we like stupid plans.
Right.
But specifically, she can't start killing parts of her logical mind before he dies.
Right.
No, no,
Well,
no. She could still she could do all the stuff in the vision still. She just has to trust that she has to trust us that we trust Margot to kill the Night King,
right.
which I don't even know if we fully trust that. So it's like,
And you also have to then say, do you think On would trade Baron Fernot for the Night King's life?
Yeah. Okay, so I have like a larger context question, I guess, because like when we learn, and this is, I guess, going into recap, so I don't know, but because we learned about the Pandorum, right? And that the visions are to bring about that. So I guess kind of going back to JP's question, like, yeah, like what do we think that this is one that we need to change or leave? Like, is this informational or is this something that we want to stop happening?
Before we get to that,
Yeah.
I want to know, is there anything that is unclear about the vision, right? Because that's the goal here, because we have one more to go. So
Yeah.
this is, rather than like what should we do about the vision, it's, do you guys understand my sort of shoddy summary of the vision enough to feel like you kind of got a close enough picture?
I
Yeah.
that was more clear than the last one.
yeah, it is more clear than last. But I have one question. So the Baron was in the shadows. Like, how did he get there? Do we have information on like why he was there, how he got there, that kind of thing?
So from her perspective, she knew this was the Baron taking his shot at the Night King, right? Like he was coming out of the shadows, teleporting in with a vampire slaying weapon, doing everything that he could to take advantage of a moment of a perceived moment of weakness, right? Like this was him taking his shot at the king.
Mhm.
Got it.
But it was her going, he's too young. He's only had 1,000 years. He needs more time. He needs to learn more. That strike would have killed anyone, but he doesn't need to kill anyone. He needs to be able to kill this guy. And that doesn't work.
Um, is there anything that gives us like time and place, location, information?
So, time, no. Place, yes. You recognize the Night King's throne room. This is the ossuary. This is the thing that you saw in the vision with or when you guys were inside of the dream concordance with the Formian, when his mind, when the queen yet to come was being converted. That's in the ossuary, and that's the Night King's throne room is where this was.
And where is that?
It's in the Shadowfell. Uh, yeah, it's a place that, like, it wouldn't be like, oh, it's right here on the map, easy to point
Mhm.
to, but it would be a place that your characters have enough resources that if you're like, we want to know where that is, it would be relatively easy to get that information.
Okay.
It's not a hidden place. It is his seat of power. It's sort of like On's library. It's not hard to figure out where the library is, or it's generally not even hard to go there if you know what to look for. But people might just not know where it is off the top of their head.
Got it.
Any other questions about the thing that happened in the vision? You guys ready for part 3?
Why did she think the first knife had her name on it?
Because that's what she thought the plan was. She recognized the weapon as being a true name weapon, and she assumed it was her name on the blade.
Oh, so you can't tell at a glance whose name is on the weapon?
You can. He was just holding it in a way that she couldn't see
Got it.
while he was gloating. So like he showed her it was a true name weapon, and then he started talking and then gesturing with the weapon, and then he stops in front of her like he's gonna kill her, and then the shadows darken. The Baron jumps out and she realizes, oh, that's not for me, that's for him.
The other option, I guess Gary doesn't want me to do this right now, but the other option in my like twisted mind is that we just tell On to not have her son come. Although maybe he ignores that, so
Hmm.
He is impulsive.
he is a dick.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
He
this
is
is
not a
one
girl
that
boss.
I feel like this is one that we could do maybe something about. Because like with Haven, which was a vision that we had, didn't just telling On about it was like part of what helped it not go so sideways.
It was her going through your mind and seeing the vision.
Yeah. But I
But
guess
that
yes,
might not be preventable in this case.
right.
It's not the same scenario. We don't know how she got captured. We just know that she did get captured.
Right. But it doesn't feel like with any of these visions we've like done stuff to address it and it hasn't made a difference. It does feel like every vision that we right? Like every vision that we attempt to meddle with, we do meddle with in a meaningful way. It's just
We
whether we
sent
can
a
get there or not.
we sent a message about the Maze Runner to somebody. We sent it through the Genasi
Oh,
captain. We never heard anything about that, but that doesn't
yeah, I
mean
guess
nothing
that's true.
happened.
Yeah.
Did our rods go cold for that one?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
so, yeah. But like everything we've shown up to, I guess. We've
Yeah.
affected.
And some things you change indirectly, right? Because you had, for example, the vision in Moon City, Brain,
Silver Spire.
Silver Spire. The vision in Silver Spire, it was changed because On couldn't warg into Alana
Hmm.
because she had used that ability. It was on cooldown.
Right. Yeah, I guess we don't know if that one went better or worse.
I think it went better because that's
Well,
how Clotho freed Mother by sword, right?
was it? I thought that was in Haven.
I also thought that.
We're getting very far off of the do you understand the vision track.
I understand the vision.
I guess I understand the vision in that I understand the words that you said.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, are there questions about the presentation? Whether you understand, the meaning of everything is a great thing to discuss in the game. It's more of a I want to make sure, especially because I'm summarizing things and I'm using my like notes to just have and describe this thing in the middle section that it's coherent.
I think it's coherent and I'm enjoying this. So I don't feel like this is a diminished experience, but
Agreed.
carry on.
So at the end of Last Vision, where you would normally wake up, you feel as if you are drawn here, that you are more physically present here than you are in any other vision. And as you can feel your essence trying to pull back, trying to wake up, you get that sensation of the vision is over, it's time to leave. There's this finality of the visions where it seems like everything is done. As you pull away, you can see something else. As the world begins to change and alter, there's someone else who's in the scene, but not. like yourselves, how you are this disembodied thing where you can still feel like some part of who you are is in the vision, that you are in the back seat, but you are your own person. You sense there is someone else present. Off on one side of the ossuary, you see a woman. She's got black hair and porcelain white skin, a black robe with white markings, this strange monochromatic look, and the air around her is different. It's almost as if she's been sketched upon a page. She doesn't look completely real, and you can hear scritch, 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 the scratching of quill on paper as she holds a book in her hand. An inkwell floats next to the open book, and you see her hand moving across, scratch, 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 watching the events, seeing what's happening, making a detailed note. She looks up as she notices that something is seeing her, and you see the only color on her are her eyes. They're almost completely white, but there is some sense of blue, like a diamond that is being held over something, and blue is reflecting through it. The essence of color, but there doesn't seem like there is actually anything there. She notices you, she turns back to the page, and then the world changes. She leaves, you leave, and there's a sense of depth, a sense of time, something that one of you has felt before, of a vision that is not of the here and now, but is old, is ancient. You feel your body weigh down in your slumber. You feel as you are cast back thousands of years into the past. You feel your body sag and weaken. You're old. It's been many, many years since you were spry. Many years since you could get up and do whatever it is that you wanted. You were sitting behind a desk and you look up to see a door open. The door opens and the image of a man comes in. He is old himself, looking distinguished, looking as you feel like you should look and should feel, but you just feel tired and alone, like you've wasted your life and your time. He comes in all white hair and smiles. You can see little bits of it poking around the side of his crystalline helm. His shard mind never far from where he can feel it, can be part of it, can know what it is. You see him speak, but no words come out. You run through the words in the back of your mind. You know what he's going to say. You know this is just a replaying an image. You replay back several of the things that you said. You lash out, you scream, you rage. You see the shock and disbelief on his face. For him, 40 years, it doesn't mean anything. It's just an interesting distraction from thousands of years of life. The Eladrin was barely mortal before he became a host to one of the shards. Now, the fact that it was your entire adult life, that it was everything to be his assistant, is something he doesn't understand. Your hands ache as you creak. You flip your fingers back, allowing the illusion to replay back again and again. The look of confusion and rage. The look that says he knows he should be obeyed and doesn't understand why this assistant, why this servant, why this woman would be telling him that he's wrong. You play it forward until you see him snap and snarl and storm off. The image of him goes and runs through the closed door, and you allow the rest of the illusion to fade. The inside of the storefront doesn't look like it did back then. All of the things are now covered in a thick layer of dust, cobwebs here and there. Everything valuable has been sold years ago, sold so that you could continue. You look down at your hand. It is still black, still teak as it was in your youth, but it's wrinkled. The joints knobby and old. Age has not done well to you. You think about how things could have changed, could have been different if you could give yourself to one of the shards, but then you'd be giving away something of what you are. Then you'd be like him, a servant in truth. You feel a tug at your hand and look down, allowing your palm to be now face up, much whiter and lighter than the back of your hand. You see the old creases and wrinkles, the cuts and mars of years of heavy spell work. And you can feel the tug on your middle finger, your finely manicured nails pulling up, up, up as something tugs underneath. With a little expression of will, you push some psionics down into the bed of your nail and scoop out what is inside. It floats up into the air, a single droplet of blood. The blood hovers in the air. You take a deep breath and sigh. You've been putting this off for too long, but it's got to be done. You let the blood droplet hover there in the air. You feel it pressing into your mind, the bubble of telekinesis holding it in place. Still, the droplet pulls and pulls. You sigh again, grab your cane, and stand. You allow the droplet to drift, to pull back where it wants to go in the envelope of your psionics, and you creak, and you limp, and you work your way back through abandoned corridors, old shops, forgotten hallways, with things tacked onto boards that were important then. Memos and letters and researches, documents that would have been worth 10 times their weight in gold lay here, forgotten, half broken by age, pieces of them torn off of the memo boards, fallen to the ground with no former care. There's no reason for anyone to care. It's all been canceled, hasn't it? It's been forgotten. You follow the blood droplet down the hall, down the stairs. You've been putting it off. Maybe if you were more vain, you would be thinking about what would come. That in front of you would be life again, of a sort. That in front of you would be youth and beauty. That maybe you could reclaim what you once were. Maybe you could have that life where you could sell your body, your image, your identity, and have a life of luxury and not a life of hardship, research, and learning. Maybe, but that's not the kind of person you ever were. It's not the kind of person you'll be if this is the choice you are to make. The droplet goes down the hall, floats to one of the only rooms that looks like it's not completely abandoned. There's still a layer of dust and cobwebs, but so too has there been stuff pushed aside. A shuffling of robes down the hallway has cleared a path. You follow the cleared path, relying heavily on your cane. Your knees just don't want to really work anymore. You open the door and let the blood droplet float back in. In the center of the room, you see her scream. She doesn't have any lungs to really scream with, but the head will still be trying to do things, and you see the look of hatred from the she as she stares daggers into your eyes. You can see that that's something you should probably try to fix at some point. Around the she is a circle of her own blood. You allow the droplet to float back, to become one with the ritual. Inside of the circle of blood, a circle of bone, arranged just so, with burn marks to show where the lines should be. This must be done perfectly. All of the markings are perfect, if a little sloppy. You think you could refine it. You think you could make this better. Inside of that, you see another ring, the sloppiest of the bunch. You were starting to tire, and keeping the she's essence at bay still takes up a small portion of your will and mentality. This ring of viscera is what is going to be most important for what comes next. The head in the center, the anger it feels, that and the death of something that should be immortal will bring him here, will give you what you need. You have all of the pieces, you have all of the knowledge. What you need is power and time. Your life will not have gone to waste as a servant of another. You will be a queen. Your knees creak as you lean at the edge of the ritual circle and allow your fingers to dip back into the blood. You close your eyes and focus your will. Most of the summoning is done. Now you must just put voice to the final piece. I summon thee, I summon thee, I summon thee. Thrice said and done. Night King, come. You awake.
See, I told you she was a good guy.
You're fake.
Are we back on the bad Anne bandwagon now?
I don't think it's surprising. I just don't think we know her motivations for anything. Is sort of the
So she was working for a shard mind symbiote who was jerk to her. And at the beginning of the vision, she was taking a sketch of future events. So she knew this was going to happen. She saw Vision 2 and saw us seeing Vision 2.
So this vision is Vision 19. This is the one that we just saw.
Okay.
So when you say she saw at the beginning, what do you mean? Do you mean
Well, you said within the last vision, the one of on getting going feral. You said within the last vision we sense another watcher, a woman taking notes, and then she leaves and we leave, and then we go into an old vision.
Yeah, so you follow the second woman back. So it's like you follow the other watcher back in time. And the other
Right.
woman is very clearly not on. She's has like porcelain white skin and bright blue eyes and black hair.
Oh, okay. So we follow her then, and now she's watching on,
Yes.
or she just disappears. Okay.
She disappears. If I did a better job of it, and this is one of the things that I would have if it was fully done, you would see her kind of off to the side, still taking notes of this other vision.
So this woman is kind of peeping on. Is
Seems to be.
okay. And we don't recognize her or anything about her.
No.
Okay.
There is an effect around her that seems familiar, but other than that, no. There is this sort of surreal bleeding of color around her that looks familiar.
Is she one of Shadow Mantle's?
It
Wraith.
does have that look to it. Shadow Mantle's Vince, like the Wraith.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like her.
So wait, we go into this vision, and as we're entering the vision, we see this woman taking notes, and then we go back in time. And this woman is also taking notes, seeing the same vision that we are.
Yeah, so at the end of Vision 21, which is the vision of An being captured by the Night King, you see at the end of that vision, when you try to leave, when you try to wake up, you feel like you're stuck for a second. And then as you try to pull yourself out, you see this other woman taking notes. And then when you notice her and she looks at you, then you get this sensation of following. And then you slip back in time down this seemingly like endless well of time. And then you are back in An's body, and you can see kind of in the corner of your eye the note taker. And if I was doing this as a written thing, there'd be a thing in the middle, like in the middle of the explanation, where there's the scratch of the pen, the quill on the ink. But I didn't.
Are we following the observer, or is the observer following us?
Yes.
Hmm. So we feel like she's there because we're here?
You get the sensation that you got the third vision of the three because you followed the observer, willingly or not, back in time. Like you wouldn't have gotten the third vision if the observer wasn't there.
Oh.
Right. Okay. That is what I was trying to establish.
Do you think? I mean, if you assume it's shadow metal, like these people are, or at least the wraith are obsessed with like the deaths of people. Like, do you think because we've been intervening with so many deaths, they're like, you should stop this? Here's a reason why.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back. Remember when we were in Three Trees with Clotho, like when the baby was being born, and there was a whole thing with like the wraith and the chessboard or whatever?
Hmm.
I feel like we need to dig back into that.
Was so On was a mortal at the time of Vision 19, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
She was an old woman.
Can you clarify a little bit? So she was like using an illusion to remember an argument that she had with her old boss,
Yep. So
and yeah.
yeah, so basically what she was doing, she was sitting in a chair, and then there was an illusion of what the shop used to look like. And then there was the illusion of her boss coming in and telling her that the program has been canceled, the funding's gone, we're done. And then she's remembering his reaction to her screaming and her being upset and her lashing out, and then remembering him get upset and then walk away. And then she let the vision pass. Well, she let the illusion go, and then you saw that the interior of the building that she was in was in ruin, right? That everything had been locked up and sealed away. There's cobwebs and dust everywhere. It hadn't been used in a long time.
So she had potentially spent her whole life studying something that this guy was studying. He quits, she gets mad at him, and continues to spend the rest of her whole life studying this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
now she's about to die, and so she does this horrific ritual so that she can have more time to study this thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Which we kind of just learned from the queen.
Did we?
So
Didn't
was the blood coming out of her finger and leading her down the hall? Does that mean that she cast the malediction on herself?
The blood was a little bit of blood from the she that was being used for the ritual. So she had left a little bit of blood under her fingernail from when she did the ritual, and then it was pulling itself back to go and return to the body of the she. She followed it down the hall.
So the reason I say that is because last session I just listened to the recording like 2 days ago.
Mhm.
Is because when Gary was describing the ritual that the queen was doing, which was a warped version of the
The malediction.
malediction,
Hmm.
he uh you got a really good arcana roll, I think.
Hmm.
And he started to describe like a woman obsessed who was a researcher obsessed with like finding quote unquote a cure to the adversary.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
You not
like
remember that part?
I do. I didn't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So we know. Okay. So we know that like that is what she was studying,
mhm.
which I guess makes sense why she would be working with the shard mines, right? Because they were supposed to be like the guardians.
So she's essentially developed a weapon that maledicts the adversary.
Hmm.
And because it's a hive mind, it keeps drawing them in and killing them.
Right.
And normally the hive mind, when there was an infected member, would avoid. But for whatever reason, this particular malediction makes it so they don't avoid infected members.
Like to like, it draws them together. Any other questions about the vision before you guys go back to wonderful speculation?
So the she, like, is that like something we recognize or not? I'm forgetting what the she is.
She are members of the fairy courts.
Yes. I typed it, but it's spelled like that. That's how you pronounce that word is she.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
Hey, it's not my word. I can be blamed for a lot of weird pronunciations. I can't be blamed for that one. That one's not me.
Because
like
in
a Gaelic
psychology,
word or
most
something?
people are unaware of the id.
Uh huh.
So then it's just she.
That is a next level dad joke. I appreciate it. So, any other questions about the vision? It seems like
When she says Night King, do we think that she means the Darksire or Turi?
Would be able to tell.
What we're
wouldn't
in
be
her
able to
head.
tell, but it is really old. I mean, this is back when she was immortal. So
Well, we know the
potentially-
Darksire made her a vampire, so I feel like
That's
right?
right. Because what does she call? Does she call the king of the Tiri? Does she call him father or does she call him brother?
Well, she also calls him the Night King in our last vision, so that's why I wasn't sure.
It's true.
But she calls the big Night King the Darksire
That's right.
here.
Well, since we're in On's head,
We'd know.
wouldn't we know what she means when she's summoning someone?
Yeah, you would know that she means the dark sire. She means the Night King, the original.
This is like a very
I heard-
vague.
I heard Michael laughing in the background.
He just goes, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair thing, right? Like it's the thing that is in the front of her mind, right? Because in the visions, it's like, oh well, can I think about their memories or whatever? No, not really. But she is in the middle of this ritual. She's in the middle of the summoning. So would you know the intention? Yeah, you would. That is something she needs to have clear in the front of her mind in order to properly summon something. So it makes perfect sense that yeah, you would know that she means the original Night King. She means the one that turned her, and that was the one that she now calls the Dark Sire to differentiate him from the Night King. Also, in the first vision, she wouldn't have called Ferno the Baron. She would have just called him Ferno, because she does not refer to him as the Baron in her own head. This is what I mean by like, I spend a lot of time on the details when I go through the final draft of things. So there's going to be some slip ups when I try to just summarize.
That's why we get to ask questions.
Yeah.
So we can go from stupid to slightly less stupid.
Oh, big ego over here.
I mean, yeah.
Well, he's already hiding that id, so
Well done.
Um,
Interesting that we feel we wouldn't have gotten Vision 19 if it weren't for the Observer.
Yeah.
And yet the prophetic one is supposedly the one giving us these visions.
Well, so maybe this one isn't relevant to um, changing the world, like it's already happened forever ago, right?
what was the other time we got a past vision? Whoever can answer. I don't know who.
I have
It's
no
a good
idea.
question, but I don't remember.
I think it was it related to the rods? I think it was before you got you guys' first visions, I thought.
I mean, some of the visions, like the chief dying on the Stormhorns, had already passed, I think, when we got it, right?
Hmm.
Because
But
you
it
guys,
wasn't really old.
because you guys had like previously gotten really exhausted when you gotten visions before.
Yeah, some of them made us exhausted.
And you guys
I would,
talked to Aegis about that, I think,
and
which
he
was
let you
before I
know.
was in the campaign.
Well, the reason that I'm going to point this out is that I will let you know that the person who has experienced one of these ancient visions before is Morin.
Oh.
This guy.
What?
What does he know?
He's the former wielder of your spear.
Man, I don't remember this at all.
What?
Imix?
No. Bedveer. Did we get a
Before
vision
that,
of?
it was you had a like the connection with your spear from before the fall of the old city. And this has been a long while. This is pretty close to the when you first joined the campaign.
A
Some note taker this
connection?
guy is.
A connection with my spear from the fall of the old city?
Mhm.
This is not ringing any bells.
I'm sorry.
Was it a rod vision or was
It was
it
not.
okay.
Because I also got my spear quite late into me being in the campaign.
That's true.
It was. I think I'll have to dig through notes, but it was relatively soon after you got the spear, which I thought was
No, I got the spear when I was like level 8 or 9. And I
Mhm.
started at 5.
Well, we're 16 now, so
It's been a while.
Fall of the old city.
I think I've had some visions where you've said they've been like extremely old, but it's been like history revealed type stuff.
Yeah. I will have to hunt it down and show you what I'm talking about. But it was an old vision showing the one of the former wielders of the spear. Is the only one that kind of has that sort of age timeline to it. But yes, this and you talked
It's
to
not the one with Raj Al Ghul getting Rajul being turned into a void guy, is it?
oh, that's out.
No. But I will say that, like, yes, you know that talking to Aegis did describe basically that if you go far enough back in time in these sorts of things, that it can be dangerous because it draws on your life force to sort of tie you to the current time, and it can kill you, which is why you could be so exhausted. That any going through time causes that. You guys have just been slowly becoming more and more accustomed to it as you've been doing it over and over again.
JP, do you have any questions about the visions?
No, I don't think so. I mean, none pertaining to like. Do I understand the words that were said? Yeah. Do I understand the goals and meaning? No, not at all.
So this is the point where you all snap back into reality, and you see the queen that is having a reaction as well. Like she's also got something. At the same time, you guys are sort of staggering from the visions. She's staggering to a lesser degree, but is clearly noticing something.
Should I stop the recording and start a new one?
Sure.